Our system works in two ways for us, really. Part of prevention, which is keeping us prepared and protected. And then there's a recovery component, which when something has occurred, that we can repair that activity or invasion. And there's a process of healing. So we have different weaponry to be able to do this. And I made reference, for example, to our skin. That's actually one of our first lines of defense. So the skin is important. The lining of our respiratory system is also part of our first line of defense. That's what some sort of alien or invasion will actually make contact with initially. The lining of our digestive system, also part of our first line of defense. So the first line of defense is a barrier action. It's a kind of protective inbuilt system that our body has. And then we have that second line of defense, which is what's functioning inside the body. And here we have very specialized cells, and generally we refer to them collectively as our white blood cell group. And there are many different types of them, and they again have to communicate one with the other. And they have an important function so that they can work together effectively and mount an appropriate response. Now, an appropriate response, a normal response actually, is inflammation. And that its aim really when we have an inflammation or an inflammatory response is to neutralize and repair damage or help a wound or some sort of injury heal. So we have acute inflammation. In other words, something's happened, the body's alerted to it, the cells have to go to that area, and that's a perfectly normal response. It's fast, it's quick, and we often notice that inflammation. But what can happen also is that we have what we call chronic inflammation. It's almost persistent, lingering inflammation that hasn't been resolved. So we've mounted a response, but the body hasn't actually settled down, and the inflammatory response is kind of still hanging around. That's really indicative of an immune system that is a little out of balance. It's working, it's responding, but it's not resolving the issue completely. And that can be very damaging to the body because it actually contributes in the long run to the development of lifestyle diseases or chronic diseases, as we call them. And one of the contributors to this lack of, or underperformance, if you like, of the immune system is our poor diet, or what we choose to put in our bodies, what we live around us, some of the things we breathe in, for example, some of the lifestyle choices that we have. And I even showed you some of the things that are happening in our homes that we're not even aware of, are all contributing to an underperforming immune system, which is slightly out of balance and not doing its job to its maximum capacity. So nutrition, actually, what we eat, can play a huge and crucial role. And in fact, it's well recognized, and there's a lot of new research going on at this time, and that collectively is known as immunonutrition. That is an area of nutrition and an area of science that is being researched. So how we nourish our bodies will not only affect how active our cells are, but also how they can receive nutrients, and particularly helps us to restore balance. So that's what we want to do in this evening, is we want to actually chat about what nutrients influence our immune system and how we can ensure that it actually is working at its optimal level, giving it the right chance to do its job properly. So of course, nutrients that we all know of and I think are familiar to us would be proteins, for example, vitamins and minerals. We've all heard of those. Phytonutrients, maybe not such a common term to some people. Phyto, meaning plant. So these are specific nutrients over and above things like vitamins and minerals or carbohydrates. Those are things we're getting from plants that have very specific functions, phytonutrients. And then, of course, high quality fats, the right type of fats that our bodies need. So our immune system is very active, as I say, in relying on some of these nutrients to perform its function. So from a food point of view, it needs good quality protein so that it can produce more cells as they're needed, because this immune system of ours has to be everywhere. It has to constantly be alert. And if it's damaged in some way, new cells have to be made. So protein helps us to do that. It also helps us, protein is needed to produce antibodies. In other words, do the job the immune system is supposed to do. And of course, many other defense systems. But an interesting thing that we probably haven't thought about is what we need in terms of energy from our food to enable our sort of cells and our immune system collectively to have this constant supply and a consistent supply of energy so that it can be alert. So our blood sugar levels actually need to be steady and controlled to provide this supply of energy. And so I want to take you from this picture to one of the products that I'm going to talk about in this core nutrition group. Now, the reason why we call core nutrition, because I talked about all these nutrients. Where do I start? Well, I'm trying to show you now some of the nutrients that are very specific, and that a place we need to start and make sure those nutrients are well catered to in terms of supplying energy, everything that our body would need in terms of vitamins, proteins, and all those sort of things that the cells need. But we would start somewhere, because otherwise it becomes a huge issue as to what do I choose. So that's why we're calling it core nutrition, and I'm going to be speaking specifically about some of these products initially. So NeoLife Shake actually is a protein-based product that we can use on a daily basis. And so I've made reference to why we need protein, but in combination with the protein that is in this product is actually energy that the body can use very effectively. And the graphic here that we always put alongside this product is actually showing you that when we take NeoLife Shake and we mix it up simply with some water and make a really delicious meal, actually, we are supplying not only good quality protein that the immune system can make new cells and do its work, but we are making sure that there's an energy component to the product that most of us think of as just giving us energy. But for our immune system, our immune cells need a constant, consistent supply of energy so that they can be alert and get to the spot that they need to be. So we are saying we need to make sure that our sugar doesn't spike and then drop and then spike and then drop. That means your energy levels are spiking and dropping. So this product very specifically has been designed to give good quality protein, but to ensure a constant and direct supply of energy. And that's why we talk about it as the glycemic response control technology, because this product has been tested to make sure that when we swallow it, it's giving our body a constant supply of energy. And that's exactly what our immune cells want. And I'm just showing you there that this might sound very good and very clever, but in fact, we don't just make these claims, we make sure that we test these claims. And so I was just highlighting on this slide that in fact, that little graphic there is showing you that we know the product is providing energy on a consistent level, but it has been independently tested and also an acceptable level of science to be published in peer review articles in journals. And that's extremely important. So protein and the NeoLife Shake, which provides it, will form one of the places that you would start. That is one of our core nutritional products. And then of course, I also made reference to vitamins and minerals and phytonutrients and good quality fats. And so that's another set of nutrients that we need to make sure that we are taking care of and making sure our body gets what it needs. So I'm going to look at them individually, but you'll see from this graphic that explains what we've tried to do is fill dietary gaps. I think, as I said, it's our food and what we choose and our lifestyle choices that can actually compromise our immune system, which we're not always aware of. And so I want to just highlight where some of the nutritional gaps exist in most of our diets and why these nutrients are very important and why it's important to put them back into the diet. And so these are typical foods that you and I are eating, whole grains, but we're not necessarily getting everything that's nourishing from the whole grain. We're supposed to eat fish, we're supposed to eat fruit and vegetables, and collectively they are supposed to give us the nutrients we need as well as vitamins and minerals. So I want to just take each of these categories individually and just highlight for you why we, NeoLife, have focused on these, because they're crucially important to our cells and of course then to the functioning of different systems in the body. And as I said, tonight we're talking about our immune system. So there is a gap in the grains that we eat. We're eating wheat, we're eating rice on a regular basis, but what we're not getting from those basic staples is the oil that actually is naturally in the plant when it is growing, because it has been processed out of it by the food industry. And these grains actually provide us with what we call lipids and sterols and other essential fatty acids. And importantly, this is where the cell membrane comes in again very specifically, because it helps us to build effective cell membranes. So what we did at NeoLife is went to those basic staples and took the oils and encapsulated them and delivered them in a product called 3NN. So there are 3 different oils, and that's why the product is called 3NN, 3-in-1. And they play a very important part in making sure that that cell membrane that I talked about and that you saw in that initial graphic is robust, is flexible, is dynamic. In fact, it receives good nutrition, it's a good communicator, and in terms of the immune cells, It makes them very agile and able to move around whenever they're needed. And interestingly, although this is not really news to people that our food is processed and that, you know, your packet of rice has no oil in it, that's why you can keep it in your cupboard for months. Your packet of pasta, the wheat has no oil in it, that's why you can do the same. Huge convenience factor, but not very good for our cells. And so we did this 60 years ago. We actually said we need to look at the food industry and see what they're doing to our food and what it's doing to our bodies. So interestingly though, although this is not really something new, there is no other product on the market that actually has extracted these oils from the staples that you and I eat and delivered them back to our body and specifically to the cells of our immune system in this case. Crucially important. So that is why it forms part of what we would call our core products and would be a place to start. One of the other fats that are very important in our body and from our diet are in fact those that we receive predominantly from fish. And many of you will have heard of omega-3 fatty acids because they're well talked about because they're extremely important in our bodies. They are oils that we have to actually get from our diet. Our bodies aren't able to manufacture them or synthesize them. So we have to get them from a dietary source. And the dietary source that is most available and readily used by the body is getting these oils from fish, specifically fatty fish. And we're supposed to eat, the general recommendations are to eat 2 portions of fatty fish a week, which I don't think every family manages to achieve. In fact, I'm almost certain we don't, because it's not an easy thing to do every week, week in and week out. So we tend to lack these oils. And so there definitely is a fish gap, if you like, and therefore an oil gap in our dietary intake. And what's important about these fats is that they are incorporated into the cell membranes of those immune cells. And they play a key role actually in overall immune balance and the capability of those cells, and also help those cells signal one another, communicate better within the immune system. And as I said, that's exactly what it is. Our immune system is like an army, and all the different tiers of people in the army and all the forces that come together to fight off the enemy, as it were, need to be able to communicate. They need to have a good plan, and they need to be able to react very quickly. So these omega-3 fats go to those cell membranes to enable that to happen. So you can imagine this is an extremely important dietary component, and therefore a very important gap in our dietary intake. So we have a product called Salmon Oil Plus, because we've gone to not just one fish. We went to salmon, which is a very good source of these omega-3 fats, but to make sure that we actually incorporated all the oils that make up this family. And as you can see from this graphic, there are 8 of them, to make sure that we could deliver the body what it needed. All 8 of them, we went to more than just one fish. We actually went to 4 different fish to be able to achieve this. So when we say a new chapter in omega-3 science, this is extremely unique, actually, that we have managed to deliver all 8 components of this family that the body recognizes, that the body uses. And there actually isn't another product on the market that does this again, because although it's not a secret, although this is how the body works, it seems that people are not developing products that are giving the body back everything that it needs. So 8 is really the number that we should be remembering. And we don't just take this on face value. We make sure that our products are tested, as I showed you with our NeoLife shake. This product in particular has been tested not only by our own scientists, but independently tested, because people were very intrigued by this fact that we could put in all 8 components and that we'd even bothered to do so. And so we did human clinical trials on this product. Now, I mention that because these are not just results that come out of a laboratory. It's the same as with the NeoLife shake and the glycemic control. These tests are performed in a scientific environment on human subjects, on human participants. And so we found that this particular set of oils actually can alter the membrane composition of the immune cells. In other words, it does go to the immune cell, therefore the body obviously recognizes it. A lot of people dispute the fact that when we swallow a capsule or a tablet, that in fact it even dissolves or goes anywhere. So the very fact that we can actually pick up it's present in an immune cell membrane clearly means that the body has dissolved it, used it, recognized it, it's bioavailable, and it's actually making its way to an important component in our body.